Well, that's what he's going to tell you, right? So Mosen and I, I've known Mosen for at least 25 years. He's almost considered my brother. He's so cool. He is the dude, okay? He teaches astronomy, physics, mathematics, chemistry. He's a maestro of all of those. But his art started a little bit differently. If I remember this correctly, and probably didn't, but from what I understood, he and his wife went to a gallery, and he saw a painting, he said, I can do better than that. And his wife said, no, you can't. He said, yes, I can. No, you can't. And then, yeah, he did much better. So you'll see later on. But before I introduce him, I want to introduce you to the president of CSM, Dr. Jennifer Taylor Mendoza. Here she is.
They are amazing, both Daryl and Mosen. Well, first of all, just good evening, everyone, and I'm so excited to see you all here tonight. I know it's going to be a fascinating evening. Some of you may know or may not know that CSM turned 100 last year. Did you know that? Yeah, it turned 100. So we have been celebrating for a year. So I am tired, right, of celebrating. But this is our last event tonight. So let's just give applause for that. This is the closing event for our centennial year. So we are now 100. And I want to just talk a little bit about CSM as this kind of community college, this place, this cultural hub, right, where you can get personal enrichment, civic engagement, health, cultural well-being. And this event tonight really embodies that, right? And so you think about the art, right, art and science and this interplay, this brilliance, and this the ability to take art and science and solve real world problems, and to have this sort of visual representation of it is super, super cool. And so I'm excited to be here tonight to introduce Mosen. When I came on board, he said he was retired, and I was like, oh, no. But the good thing about Mosen is, what do we know about Mosen? Mosen does not retire, exactly. He is here, he is helping us out as we move forward, and I'm so excited to be the one to introduce you tonight. He is fantastic. I've enjoyed so many years with you, and I'm looking forward to the show. So let's bring Mosen on stage.
Thank you. Great. Okay. You don't get to hug the president of a college that often. Anyway, I want to start by actually thanking a lot of people. Could I have the light a little bit toward the audience, maybe about half light? Okay, yeah, thanks. To begin with, these events don't happen by themselves. There are a lot of people helping. Our PR department, Kim, Helen, David, they put a lot of hours in it. And our Math Science Division, MESA, and also STEM, all of these people have put a lot of hours to get the programs going. At CSM, we really have it nicely. I have known Jennifer actually before she became president. She and I were working on I think it was the accreditation for CSM. So I've known her for a while, and I'm honored that she introduced me tonight. And there is a guy way back there in the corner. You guys don't see him. You have to turn on and look. His name is Mike Clare. Do you all see him? Yeah. He is our retiring chancellor. And I really feel great that he has made it tonight. He's made a lot of them. But he and I go way, way back. Actually, when I knew him, he was teaching accounting. And we were in the meetings together a long time ago. And I have seen him moving from there to become a vice president, to become president, to become a chancellor, and then he becomes nothing. Okay? Like any retiree. So that's what happens. And I am almost there too. The harder than nothing part. Mike, could you stand up, please? Okay, Jerry. The main reason I wanted to stand up is that because I have had 100% support from him and from Jennifer in order to have the astronomy program going. And that has been really, it would not have been possible if I did not have 100% support from them. Mike has this expression for me. Anytime I go see him, he says, "How much do you want?" So it's been pretty good, and we are in the process of renovating it again, and that's why I'm not retiring. I'm going to renovate the planetarium before I leave. So that's the way it's going to be. Now, for tonight's talk, I want to do something different that I have done traditionally. I want to talk through my art and through my science. I have written a book recently on the new concepts about the human perception, and it's being published and coming out, I think, sometimes in May. And so I'm going to bring some of that stuff here. But more importantly, I'm going to be talking to you through my art. So what I have done in this presentation, if everything works out like the way I want it, instead of having regular PowerPoints, I'm going to have in each one of them something of my art that relates to what I want to tell you. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. But let me see if this thing works to begin with. Okay, maybe I have to stand here to do it. No, maybe I should go somewhere else. No. Let me see. Does this sucker work? Oh, okay. Maybe I can do it by hand. I don't know. My back is going to hurt by the end of the hour. The reason I put that here, it was a very interesting thing happened. As I told you, I'm trying to publish this book. One thing they wanted from me is that some of the references that I had in the book, they wanted the page number. So, and, oh shoot, I forgot to thank her. She is actually running the show. Nobody knows it. But she's, one of the things that she does for me, actually gives me time to work. She basically corrects all my mistakes. And one of the things I had to do was that to find the references base reference to my book. I couldn't find anything. She went and found a book and brought it to me.
Who is she?
My wife, Lynn. Now, what happened was that when I opened the book, that fell off. The page, it fell on the ground. And I looked at it, and I looked at the title. I gave a talk on mental imagery in the art and science in 2004. But I'm not going to repeat that. We're going to talk about something different. So I thought it was cool. Let's see, I think maybe I have to do it this way. Yeah, bring the light down a little bit, not too much, because I want to be able to see that. And bring the light down a little bit on the screen, please. A little bit more. Okay. Now, first of all, I want to tell you something. You see there is a number that I put in the corner of each slide, and there is a reason for that. I want you to remember that number anytime you have a question that relates to that slide, so I know what you're asking. All right? And you could ask me anything. Now, before I start anything, I want you to read something, and then I'll ask you a question. Can you see this? Yes. You could bring the house light a little further down so they can read it easily. Okay. This is a statement from Ivan Pavlov. And the reason I have it here, it says something about the difference between the artists and the thinkers. At least in his statements, artists see the whole reality, but the thinkers pull it apart and kill it. That's what he said. So my question to you is, do you agree or disagree? You don't have to tell me that, okay? But I want you to think about it for a second. Do you agree with that statement or you do not agree with it? And then at the end, we're going to talk about it a little bit. Now, in that light, I want to do a little tiny bit of experiment. It's not a big deal, but you're all going to be participating. This is a very interesting thing. I've never done that before. Yeah, could you do that? Yeah, so I'm going to help you. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll try it. Now, what you're seeing here, I want you just close your eyes and imagine yourself, okay, as you see yourself today. Okay? As you see yourself today. Just imagine. Again, I will be coming back to these later. Can you do that? Okay. Now, let's do the second part. Yeah. Now go on the pad. Just hit the pad. Yeah. There you go. Now, the next thing I want you to do now, I want you to visualize your house or your residence, apartment, whatever it is. Can you do that? Now, if there's a chimney, imagine that. If there's a color in your house, imagine that. If it's a 2-story building, 1 story, can you imagine that? Yes? Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to give you about a minute, turn around and tell the person next to you what you saw. You don't have to go through details. But for example, what you could say, my chimney is made out of brick, or my house I see yellow, or whatever it is. Can you do that? Well, you can tell me somebody. Yeah. Okay? That's good. Can you see? No, then you can turn this around. No, you don't. Just turn it around and I tell you to click. Okay? Or in fact, you can take it down. All right. Good. Here's clicking. All right. Now we're going to go to a little bit more. Okay, click the next one. This time I want you to imagine yourself about 5 years ago. Yes. I think it is. Imagine yourself about 5 years ago. Now, make sure your eyes are closed. 5 years ago, and what I want you to do, visualize try to recall something very, very personal at that day. Something like you got a divorce, you got married, you got a kid, you fell in love, you fell out of love, something very, very personal. And I want you to reflect, see if you can recall the feeling you had about that. Can you? Well, who knows? We're going to talk. Okay. Now go to the next one. Now, I want you to keep these in mind, and we're going to start with actually how we're going to approach the problem of mental imagery. So let's go to the next one. Now, did you notice something very different about when you visualize your house or your residence and when you visualize something 5 years ago? Did you feel anything different between them? Yes? Those who did yes, yes, raise your hand. Okay, it seems like majority did. Now let's do the next part. Every one of us has two walls. One of them, and we live in it, is easy to communicate. And the other one is our inner world, is the world that we have is inside us. Now, if you think about it for a minute, the first one that I asked you to visualize about the house or something, it is something external. It is in your outer world that you're visualizing. The second one that I asked you to visualize is something in your inner universe that I asked you to visualize. Is there any serious difference between those two visualizations? And the answer is yes. The first one, you can easily point to. If I asked you to describe it to your buddy right next to you, what you visualize, you could say it easily and they can tell you, oh yeah, that's it. But if I asked you the one that was 5 years ago, how you felt, first of all, it's hard to describe. But secondly, you cannot communicate it directly. Not that, it's verbal. And that is a very important part. So, obviously, we live in two universes, an inner universe and outer universe, and our bodies are the separator of it. Now the next thing is, go ahead, go to the next one. Push it, the button. Okay? We instinctively want to connect these two, don't we? And why? What we want to do, we want to be able to explain the outer universe. And that is the job that we have. In fact, that's what the science is about, trying to explain that. And at the same time, we want other people to know something about our inner universe. But you cannot explain that. You can express it. Now, I'll come to the difference between the explaining and expressing very shortly. But you see, that's what you do. Instinctively, you want to do that. Why? Because we need an integration of the two for the healthy life. Go ahead. Put the next one. Okay. That's what I just told you. You really need a harmonious life only if the two are integrated together. If they're not, there are problems. Quite a bit. Now, next one. The question is, how do we integrate the two universes? That's the topic of tonight's talk. Now, let's go to the next one. One way, and in fact, the most important way, that we connect the two universes is by mental imagery. From the day that you're born, you are observing, you're experimenting, and as you do, the mental imagery that is formed by your brain and your mind, block by block, builds your inner universe. In other words, your inner universe starts with some foundation, but builds up by your mental imagery of the outer universe. And how do you get that? Of course, you get it through your senses, and through your perception, and some other elements. But that is important. Go to the next one. Now, the reason I have the painting over there. That painting is called, I think it's called The Chaos or At the Edge of Chaos. And the reason for that painting is kind of interesting. When this guy who was sitting in front of me was about 2 years old, he had a new planet, and that planet was called Ronso. And Ronso, anything that he wanted was happening in that planet. Nothing was happening on Earth. Ronso. And one day I asked him, Dusty, do you want me to draw Ronso for you? He said, sure. I said, how many moons Ronso has? He said, 16. I said, really? He said, yeah. So, this is what I drew for him. And it became a painting. It's about this size or so. To him, at that time, Ronso was a projection of inner universe to the outer universe. As a child. Now, let me go to the next one. Okay. Now, we do two things. We use science to explain the phenomena that we observe and we experience. We use art to express our feelings, our inner emotions, our inner world to the outside. That's what we do. And the painting that you see on this side, this part of it should work at least. No? This thing really sucks. Oh well, that's okay. You see, these are my hands. The title of that painting is Psi-Asterix. The idea behind it is that you have three kinds of universes that you're working with. You have your body, then you have your outer universe, then you have your inner universe. And those are in constant flux with each other. And that's the important one. Now, keep going. Next one. What is it coming out? That's exactly what we do. We use art and science as vehicles to communicating between the two universes, our inner universe and our outer universe. And the painting I did is called Beyond Horizon. And I try to make every painting that I have to go with a statement to the side. And once again, I want to emphasize that if you have any question at any time, please just remember the number at the corner and I will go through it and talk to you about it. Let's go to the next one. Especially in the Western culture that I am familiar with, and to a great extent also in the Eastern culture, it has become an orthodoxy that art and science don't go together. In other words, one is an exclusion of the other. I remember a long time ago when I was trying to learn to paint, I had a teacher say, if you want to paint, don't think about it, just paint. Yeah, but I don't know what to think. I don't know what to paint if I don't think about it. So don't think about it, just paint. I didn't know what that meant. I never did that. But it is very, very common to seek the advice of a lot of faculty that if you want to do science, you cannot do art. If you want to do art, you cannot do science. They don't go together. If you're a scientist, you have to think analytically, forget about anything else. If you're an artist, you're thinking globally, you don't want to pay attention to details. When I was a young kid, I had a psychology teacher. I never forget his name. His name was Dr. Plum, E-L-U-M. He was the worst teacher I ever had. But he was my psychology teacher. He came to the class one day and he said, you know, it is proven that the more mathematics you know, the less feminine you become. Really? And a lot of people sat there and listened to it. Oh, sure, must be it. And his reasoning? Well, look for yourself. The kids at the beginning are doing mathematics, boys and girls in elementary school. As soon as they get to high school and to college, the girls get away from mathematics. That math people want to stay feminine. So, well, how about somebody, the ideas of yours put in their head when they were in the kindergarten? So, anyway, I dropped that class because I couldn't stand it. But seriously, I actually learned more from the teachers that were horrible than teachers that were good. Because the teachers that were horrible made a big impression on me and said, when I become a teacher, I never would do that. One of them was this thing. It is discouraging people that if they're going to do art, they cannot do science. And I think of this. Okay, let's go to the next one. And how does that work? That's the whole idea. I told you I'm going to tell you the difference between explanation and expression. What is what, as I understand it. And by the way, a lot of these are all commonplace everywhere. Go ahead, click the first one. See, normally explanation comes with the clarification of thought and emotions. Notice that I put the emotion in there. You cannot be a scientist if you are not emotional. That's a fallacy. Look at Daryl. Okay? You cannot be, and definitely, you cannot be a scientist if you're not passionate about your work. And passionate is almost synonymous with the emotion. Many other scientists I have met that they are so emotional about what they do. And yet you hear it in our education system that, wow, you can't do science if you are emotional. Try to take somebody that was developed a new theory and try to take his theory away. Okay? You see what I mean, what the emotion is. So, that's number one. The difference is that what we do, feelings and thoughts and emotion also have another aspect. That is expression. You cannot really, nobody can, explain their feelings to anybody else. Remember the example that I told you at the beginning that you experimented? If I asked you to think about 5 years ago, if you had something that you felt, there is no way that you can explain in words how you felt. You could talk about it, I was angry, but that doesn't say anything about your feeling. Because angry to you means something different. Okay? In fact, a lot of time my wife, I'm talking, she said, are you angry? I said, no. I said, well, that's your voice sounds like you're angry. The point I'm trying to make is that there are things that can be expressed that they cannot be explained. Conversely, there are things that can be explained and cannot be expressed. And here comes the important part. To see with the artistic and scientific art is having both of those in your head whenever you approach something. I'm jumped ahead, but I'll come to it again. Go to the next one. Okay. This is, I put this here because I told you a book is coming up. The title of the book is, go ahead, it's called Conjunctive Theory, Mental Imagery in the Arts and Sciences, and it's coming up in May. It is a kind of a thick book, so if you're patient, it's a good book to read. But it's a development of the new theory. In order for me to explain to you what I mean that you need to approach both art and science look at everything with the scientific and artistic eyes, I need to tell you a tiny bit about the conjunctive theory. By the way, it took me about 16 years research to found the neurological and scientific reasons for this, so that somebody can publish it. And if you got more interested, I'll be happy to talk to you, or you can read the book. Now go to the next one. Okay? Now, what are the bases of conjunctive theory? The conjunctive theory actually distinguishes between the brain states and mental states. Brain states are physiological, they're physical, and they are, you can actually point to. They have different kind of machines that we can measure different kind of brain states by the firing of different kind of neurons. Then we have mental state. Mental state is not the same as brain state. Mental state supervenes over the brain state. It's the manifestation of the brain states. Okay? That distinction is very, very important. Because one of them, the brain states, you can manipulate it at ease. Mental state is very hard to manipulate because we don't understand it that much. We are getting it. Go to the next one. Now, the brain states come in two varieties. One variety are the ones that are essentially triggered by our senses. In other words, our environment impinge on our senses. Our senses cause the certain firing, sends the messages to the brain, and sets the certain brain states. For example, if you're looking at something, the messages get to retina of your eyes, goes through the optic fibers, and go all the way to the back of your head, and establishes a certain kind of brain state. And then there is another kind of brain states that are, I call them emergence-triggered brain states. Those are the ones that actually brain states trigger inside the brain. In other words, once you have had the senses triggering a set of brain states, another set of brain states quite distinct from it can get triggered, and that any kind of mental imagery supervenes over both of them. Did I say that right? Supervene. Okay, close enough. Okay, he always makes the fun of my W's and V's. So, supervenes over both of those. Now, why is that important? Well, for example, it is possible sometimes to just have one of them triggered, not the other. You could have just the ETBS triggered. If ETBS triggered without anything else, one of the manifestations of it is you hallucinate. Hallucination is one of those things. But the important part of it, and that is important, that you realize that OTBS and ETBS are two kinds of brain states, and the mind is a manifestation of both of these. Go to the next one. Okay? That's the word I'm trying to say, by the way, if you cannot understand my accent. Okay? Supervening is that. And that's why the title of the book is a conjunctive theory. It's a conjunction of two types of brain states that results in the mental state. Go to the next one. Okay. Every mental imagery has two components. It has both OTBS and has the ETBS. Or if you want to think about it, OTBS essentially is the physical component of the mental imagery. ETBS is the psychological component of the mental imagery. Go to the next one. Okay. Now, the kind of quality that you perceive depends on the ratio of these two. So, for example, primary qualities, qualities that scientists normally deal with, to measure the mass, the volume, the color, and so on. Those are all the idea of the primary qualities. On the other hand, perception of something like beauty is totally on the other side, it's tertiary. The ratio of the OTBS and ATBS tells you what kind of mental imagery you have. Now, by the way, in this scheme, I have converted what the traditionally was, Galileo started with only dealing with the primary qualities. People like John Locke and Hobbes and those guys started talking about secondary qualities. Samuel Alexander talked about tertiary qualities, but the important part of it is that they have this, or that. You could have only primary quality, or you could have secondary quality, or you could have tertiary quality, nothing else. My theory of conjunctive theory actually says otherwise. It says the qualities that we have, it has a range, it's a gradation. It goes from the very primary one, where OTBS is very strong, to the one that is tertiary and everything in between. And there, ATBS is very strong. Okay, now, go to the next one. Let me see. Please read that. I'm going to give you a few minutes to digest that, because that's it. Both creation of artwork and creation of science has to rely on both worlds that you have. No scientist can work without strong inner universe understanding of what's going on, or the other one. The same is true with the artist. One of my favorite artists of all time that everybody knows is Leonardo da Vinci. My God, he's had this balance of seeing everything in the universe with both artistic eyes and scientific eyes. And look how much he did. Now, let's go to the next one. Every work of art, every artistic work, and every scientific theory explains something and they express something. This painting that I have here is a quite large painting, but you cannot see it from there. But my wife is sitting in that corner of the beach. But you see the universe that is visible to us is a very small part of our universe. But we have a lot of universe outside the ones that are outside the universe. That's why I have it. And what you're seeing is that, then how do we go about try to see both artistically and scientifically? That reminds me of a story. Long time ago, and I think it was on one of these public TV stations, they were talking to a biologist, and he was sitting by a brook. The water was running and so on. And somebody interviewed him, said that we are told that scientists cannot see the beauty of the water flowing and between the rocks and the rush of the water and the good breeze that they see, and so on and so forth. He looked at them and he said, wait a minute. Think about this. I am looking at the water passing that rock. Not only I see the water passing the rock, but I see and I know how the molecules are behaving to make that happen. Isn't that a beautiful thing? To be able to, with your eyes, to see the beauty that is created by the motion of the molecules of water as it interacts with those. He claimed that I think that is higher level of beauty to see than simply looking at the brook and say, oh, that's beautiful. And that is the idea behind this. Go to the next one. So my point is this. If we can learn to look at the world all the time, not just sometime, all the time, with both artistic eyes and scientific eyes, we really enrich our own lives. Because you see a lot more, you express a lot more, you explain a lot more. You are not doing one in the exclusion of the other. Go to the next one. And the question is how? Now, I have a couple of suggestions. Oh, by the way, stop, don't go yet. The painting that you're seeing here, which presently hangs in the Math Science Division, is the centerpiece of it is my rendition of the rose window at the Notre Dame. That's before the fire happened. And what I had in mind that actually not only you can look at the art and science, look at the world, you can look with art and science at everything in your life. Go to the next one. This is my son, this guy. We were somewhere, actually, the tree was in a parking lot. Okay? And he was on that tree, and I was telling him, hold on, I want to do some work. And he said, Daddy, can I come on down? I said, 5 more minutes. Okay? So, this is my rendition of Mother and Child, because what I was seeing when I saw that tree, I wasn't looking at it as a tree. Because Dusty was holding over there, I saw a mother falling down, with the head down, with the legs up, but with arms holding the son. And I made that painting. At that time, I wasn't looking at the tree just like the tree. I was looking at the tree as an artist. Go to the next one. Okay. I want you to read that. Don't go there. You blew it. My son blew it. Okay. He's a Stanford graduate, so don't worry. All right. Read that. How beautifully said. Truly, that is the case, and I believe that. Art and science are really branches of one tree. And you don't want to live a life that you exclude one from the other one. That reminds me of something very cool, by the way. I don't know how many of these people know. You see the guy who's sitting back there? He's an amazing keyboard player. Okay? If you've never heard it, you should. Okay? You're still doing it, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you, those who are in science, please enrich your life with art. And those of you who are in art, open your eyes to science. Now let's go to the next one. Why, he blew this one. Okay? Good. Let's go look at the next one. Let's see what you have. All right. First of all, what is the concept of the conjunctive theory when it applies to art? In conjunctive theory, and I have about 300 pages to say about this, that art is about creation of beauty, depending what you mean by beauty. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Go ahead. I see two kinds of beauty. In fact, I named it that way. One is called ontic beauty, is a beauty of being, something is beautiful. The second one is actually modal beauty. Modal beauty is the beauty of doing. Well, let me see what the next slide is, if it is the one that I want. Okay, let's look at this. If you look at this painting, what do you see? You see a donkey, you see a harp, you see, if you look very close down here, probably you cannot see it from there, you see some flowers and you see demons and angels, and you see a tree on top. You see all that. And you see a separation between them. The title of this painting is Musical Spheres. How many of you have heard that word? What was that? At one point, people believed that there is a music in the spheres, the planets around. And if you were aware in your consciousness, you could hear it. As time went by, people become less and less interested in that kind of listening or meditating and contemplating. That all went away. Here I have a separation between the heavenly and earthly, connected by two elements. I'm not talking about these artistic elements now. I'm looking at what that painting means. There is a donkey there, and there is a harp. And there is a poem by Chaucer, in which he explains, donkey is deaf to the music of the harp. Now, in that light, try to analyze this painting again. Now, go to the next one. Now, anything you do, no matter what it is, anything you do, and if you have intention of incorporating beauty in it, you are an artist. What do I mean by anything you do? Think about it. In the morning you get up and you try to put your clothes on. What do you choose? You match your socks with your shoes. I don't do that, my wife does that. But you could do that, right? You match your socks with your shoes, your dress, that you want, so on. You're doing that because you have certain kind of beauty in mind. You comb your hair. You decorate your homes. Why? Because you are at heart artists. You're trying to incorporate in your work. Now, go to the next one. Now, don't click on it. Now, there is an artist that John Constable. He was one of my very, very favorite artists. But I don't know how many of you know him, probably a lot of you do. He was a British, Scottish artist, and he was great. Some of his landscapes cannot be matched. He said something that at the very beginning when I started doing art, it stuck to my brain. And unfortunately, he has haunted me ever since. Now put it on. Okay? He said, painting is a science and should be pursued exactly as any other thing. Every canvas is an experiment. Every one of the canvases that I have done is a different experiment in nature of reality. It is a science. You experiment. Some experiments turns lousy. In fact, I found one recently in my studio, the painting that I discarded. Sometimes it comes out right. Go to the next one. Yeah. Now, I brought this one. I have it here, but I have it here also. This painting is here, so that I can talk to you about it a little bit. This painting is called Tilted Universe. And I did that probably about in the 90s sometimes. And what is it about? Why Tilted Universe? Well, one thing to look at it, I send people saying, oh, that's beautiful, that's nice. I agree. I like it. Okay, I feel complimented when somebody says that's a beautiful painting. And this, by the way, belongs to my grandson. So, what is it about? You notice the clocks in here go up. At here, if you look at it, the clock reads 24 hours. And this one reads 20 hours, the hours go down. By the time you get up there, the clock stops. You don't see it anymore. There is no passage of time to get up there. You would also notice that this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should be 7 of them. And then think about the high Buddhism. And as you move higher and higher and higher, and you reach a state of nirvana. I have that indicated here by the cloud formation. Light on this side, dark on that side. But it says something else. It's very important that I have used the perspective to do that one. You notice that as you move up, time dilates. As you move up, the space shrinks. How many of you have heard something about relativity? Isn't that what that is? I looked at it first with artistic eyes, then I am looking at it with the scientific eyes. It's telling me what is happening. Let's see what it says over there. Don't click twice. Okay? Go ahead. Stop there, don't click anything. Read that one. Okay? This is a very, very important statement. And that's what I meant, that if you think that scientists don't think about the beauty and about the art, you're mistaken. The statement that you're reading here is, go ahead with that. How many of you have heard of Dirac? He was one of the fathers of the quantum mechanics. By the way, I had a breakfast with him when I was a young kid. And this is at University of Colorado. And I asked for an advice. I will tell you that, or it was later. He was very tall and very high-pitched voice. But 4 graduate students were assigned to take him to breakfast. I was one of them. We took him to breakfast. Amazing man. And we were going, I prepared a lot of stuff the night before to pretend that I know something. And I get there, lost it totally, because when he was talking, some of it was over my head, and the part I understood was so fascinating, I didn't want him to stop. He was talking how you can come up with a new cosmology by just changing the value of gravitational constant. And I said, wow. And I sat down, and at that time I thought I knew something. And I sat down and listened to him and said, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. And look at that statement. There was a physicist, de Broglie. He actually came up with the idea of the duality of particle and wave for electron and all other particles. Not because of the science, because you cannot find those kinds of things by induction. You cannot look at the round and say, oh, I see an electron has a wave on it. That's not the way it works. He came up with the idea of the electron nature of an electron because of the beauty of nature. His argument was this: look, a photon sometimes acts like a particle, sometimes acts like a wave. Beauty of the nature dictates that symmetry should be preserved in all of nature. So if that is the case, then it has to be true that electrons do have also wave character. If the wave photon has the particle characteristics, then electron particle should have a wave characteristics. Based on that, we came up with the foundations of the quantum mechanics. Wave mechanics was born simply because he was paying attention to the beauty of nature. Go to the next one. Now stop there. Now I put this one here for quite a reason, and I brought it over here. I want to talk about it a little bit over here. I am running a tiny bit late, maybe. Can I have 5 minutes?
Sure.
Here in this painting, if you look at it carefully, I saw a lot of people look at it. I brought it in because I wanted you to know that the whole thing is painted. There is no frame, there is no matting, all of it is just one painting. And then there are some words in here, and I made sure to write it to the languages that generally most people don't know. Some of my students came who were from different countries, they could read it, they said, oh, I know that word. So, good, I explained it. So, and then there is this little thing over here. So what is this painting about? Well, you could look at it, and I see some people like it, some people wonder what it is. But I want to go ahead and put up. Now, looking at art scientifically, push the button. Go ahead. Okay? This is what René Magritte said. Besides Da Vinci, he was one of my favorites. Actually, I was inspired by him when I started painting. So that's why some of my early works were very surrealistic. He was the pinnacle of intellectual painting. I know a lot of you probably have seen the painting of a pipe that it says this is not a pipe. Okay? So, but look what he says. He says that really there's a lot of mysteries. A lot of mysteries. And what you're scientifically looking for is try to find those mysteries. Go to the next one. Okay. Now I have taken that painting and turned it around, like that. 90 degrees. Now you see something different is happening. You still may not make sense to much out of it. Go push the button again. I have taken that part and exaggerated it here. So you can see it. Do you see a dining room there? That dining room is up there. 6 chairs, 6 chairs. Those are the different names for the chair in different language. And by the way, I think Mike, you remember Ardash. Ardash, I had to go to him to get the Armenian word over there. Okay, that was it. If you look carefully, there is a buffet there is a buffet there. There is a carpet there is a carpet there. There is a picture there is a picture there. Fireplace, mirror, mirror. Now what is the reason for doing that? The role of the title and the object has changed. The object in this case is the title, and title is the object. Do you see that? So I brought it here for you to see. Now go to the next one. So, how do we see with the scientific eye? Go ahead. Here are some of the suggestions. Go ahead. Go ahead quick because I'm running a little bit late. Whenever you see an artwork, like this one that I did, approach it with aesthetic attitude. Try to look for the beauty in it. But also have your eyes on science of it. In this painting, I have two leaves. One of the leaves are actually real. One of them I have painted. One of them changes with time. As time goes on, it gets darker and darker. The other one stays the same. And I have the word leaves all over. In fact, in that flag, it says leaves in Burmese. Also, go the reverse too. Reflect on your feelings. What is it expressing? And also look for what is explaining. It enriches your life. It enriches the painting. And if you go to the next one, when you go to a scientific theory, if you look at it, not just for science of it, but for also for the beauty of it, that enriches it and enriches you. This picture that you see up here is the diagram of the conjunctive theory for perception. The details of it is not important. It's the picture I took from my book. So, again, when you go to a theory like that, look for the scientific aspect of it. And also look for artistic aspect of it. In conjunctive theory, all different kinds of mental imagery are combined, unified into one kind. By that I mean perception, dreams, hallucinations, illusions, and so on. Imagination, all of them. You should look at it. Go to the next one now. This was the picture that I have put down at the very beginning. Okay? This is my Simvisio number 2. I had a student here at the beginning of the class keep going over it. If you look carefully, the title is Everything, Nothing and Everything. I did that many, many years ago, 22 years ago. But you notice that you start with the ellipse, you go to parabola, you go to the hyperbole, you end up with the hyperbole. If you look at it carefully, that is one of the best sentences in the history of mankind. That's a man's imagination. When you look at this painting over here, this is my buddy, Bill Ronberg. He was a mathematician. And if you look at the background, the carpet that is sitting on his background, if you look carefully over there, you see the proof of Pythagorean theorem. Look with both artistic and scientific eye. Go to the next one. Now, this one is now for your turn. The title of this painting is interesting, but this comes, I just give you a hint. It comes from the poem from Rumi. And this is for you to try to see it artistically and also see it scientifically. I have one more for you as an exercise. Go ahead. This one is actually Soul of Montezuma. The only thing I can tell you on that piece of film, there is one picture in there. Unfortunately, I cannot. The smack in the middle picture is actually a picture of a grave in San Mateo. A student of mine took it. I thought that was a really cool picture because the gravestone is covered with ivy. You cannot see anything. There's only one thing you see on it. It says Bob. That's it. I thought that was the coolest thing. Now, all right, now, with that said, let's see what is next. After you looked at all these things with the scientific eyes and artistic eyes, now try to look at it philosophically. It would be next. Now, I want to show you something else. I think there's one thing more to push. And you're going to say, and now, okay, let's start moving the curtain up. Go ahead. Now, here I have 5 paintings, and first 3 on the left and last 2 on the right, they are separated by about 30 years. I did those almost 30 years ago, and this one about a year and a half ago, a year ago, and just finished this one. That's my mom. That one is my dad. This one is my family portrait. That's my house. That's my son in the Baltimore. That's my son playing with his dog. That's the dude that was making a computer, my other son Dustin. And that is Lynn and I work at our house. And this one here, of course, the 2 paintings that you see behind it is the screen, is actually by a very, very well-known artist, and it actually shows that how, in that particular case, how our finances, our eyes on greed, stops us, imprison us from seeing the nature. You will see the 2 pennies in there, and those are the pennies the year I painted it, 1999. But the important part of it, it says, "In God we trust." And I put it that way because I thought it was very interesting. The word God is not on top. The word we is on top. Look at the penny, you'll see it. Now, I'll leave it for you to think about it. And that other painting here, originally it was named, naming it is knowing it. It is, if you look at this carefully, you can say, kind of that's a weird thing. Let's look at the science. You see, the shadows on that side goes that way. The shadows here come this way. That's not going to happen in the ordinary room. And also, you see another hint. You have a copper moon over there. It's eclipse. And you have a chair that is upside down. There is a statue up there on the mantle with a clock. And the clock reads exact time that the Hiroshima bomb went off. Now you think about that. The house, the room is not the room. It is the earth. The chair upside down is our leaders that were ignoring what's going on. And the rest were spectators that did not do anything. Look at paintings more than just a painting. They are alive. Thank you very much. Any question? Carol, you want to come up here because I cannot. Where are my microphone ladies? Okay, we can bring that. Yes.
I just wanted to find out about the Rumi, what is the quote of the Rumi?
Pardon me?
What is the Rumi poem?
Oh, the Rumi poem says that the translation of it. It says we are like a piece of hay over the surface of the ocean waves. And if you look over there, you see the ocean over there. Yet we are so arrogant that we think we can find what is going on in the depths of the ocean. And the painting I have, you are thinking about the broken bowl, unaware that there are thousands of bowls below us. Okay? Anything else? Yes?
Two pages on the right.
Yes.
I think you identified
Those
those.
are my Adam and Eve version. If Adam and Eve came to life today, that's what it would have looked like. And in reality, this is my brother-in-law. He's a fisherman, an expert fisherman. This one is my wife's cousin, or my cousin. Originally, I wanted to paint her. She said, I will never let you paint it. I said, okay, what do I do? So I wanted to paint Ellen, okay? That's what I did. But it is a version of Adam. Okay? Anything else? Yes?
You said in the third painting, the fourth painting, there about the chair upside down is the government not.
They were on their head, yeah.
Right. And the rest of it is the people, the rest of us not doing anything.
No, there were a lot of spectators. In fact, that was the case.
Right.
You see these people sitting at the corners, this chair, that chair, that chair.
Oh,
They did nothing.
okay.
Okay? Yeah. Anything else? All good? Yes. You sure? All right. All good? Thank you very much. Please come and walk and go eat and have fun.